Evil Dead Rise. I want to talk about it. Welcome back to the only channel that talks about movies. I'm Timbo, and today I want to talk about Evil Dead Rise. Doing a little thing a little bit different this time. I'm actually just going to I kind of wrote out some things that I thought about from the movie, and I just want to discuss those things. So I'm giving myself just a little bit of time. We're just gonna delve into what I feel about this movie. Evil Dead Rise is a sequel. I wouldn't even say it's a sequel. It's more like I'd say it's more like a follow-up to the franchise of Evil Dead. You have Evil Dead 1, 2, Army of Darkness, and then you have Ash versus the Evil Dead. Then you have the 2013 Evil Dead, which is still my favorite one. I don't care what anybody says. That one, to me, was what, in my opinion, I think a lot of movies after that film were made in that same style because that movie was so good. I think that movie brought in a gruesomeness to films after that. So now we have Evil Dead Rise. And the opening scene to Evil Dead Rise is strictly paying homage to, the Evil Dead series. We have the woods, we have the trail end shot that's like zooming in and doing this, going in and having the ominous like yeah, I love that this franchise, this series, feels like it's pocketed universes that all still follow underneath the same category of there's an evil book, you read the book, shit happens. And this movie, again, starts off, it starts off with a cabin in the woods. And I kind of like the Wes Anderson kind of shot of like the triangular cabin. Kind of had like an Ari Aster kind of vibe to it too, which I really liked. So, but from there you get to see some death and gruesomeness from this cabin scene that sets up the events that's going to unfold in the high rise. From there we get to see some exposition on the family. We get to learn about the mom, the kids, the sister, the aunt of the family. Get to know where everybody's at, what they're doing. And we get to learn a lot about the struggles that this family's already going through. They have an abandoned father. He is starting to decide to, I guess, move away. They don't really dig deep, and that's another thing I really like about Evil Dead movies is you get some idea of what these people are going through, but that's about it. We don't get too much in detail with these characters because we want to focus on what's happening in that film. Yeah, dad's gone. The son is a DJ. The middle daughter seems like she's an activist. She likes to protest and that kind of jazz. And then you have the daughter, the youngest, who is just a kid. I mean, she's just a kid who's goofing around, likes sharp things and making things out of other toys, which is kind of like Sid from Toy Story, but she's a lot nicer than Sid. And then you have the mom. His mom seems like she's just been through a lot and she is struggling, trying to, feed these three kids while also just being a single parent. We don't really get to see what her job is. She's obviously inventing things. She's obviously like works with electronics and tools like that. So I really don't know what she does, but whatever it is, it's obviously just paying the bare minimum. And then you have the aunt. She is a guitar technician. She's wanted to be the lead technician, and she's pregnant, but she doesn't tell her sister that when she meets them. So we get all this bundled up mix of everything. And that's what sets up, the plots to this movie. An earthquake. And from there, we kind of get a adventure on our hands. So then after we get all of this, we get almost a Jumanji style movie, which now that I've kind of like, I kind of sat on this, like I wrote in my notes, I said the Necronomicon and then in quotations, Jumanji. And I think that just kind of plays into really what these movies are, which is a horror version of Jumanji. You have this item that has powers beyond anyone's control, and people have to deal with the actions of using these things. And Jumanji, obviously, whenever they find the board game, it has like that you hear the jungle music, but when you find the Necronomicon, you hear like violent violins. You hear like very stringy bass and like kind of sounds. That book is not going to be good. And then kind of like how they did with the newer Jumanji movies, having the game be a video game, they tied this book to records instead of like your typical, like you're listening to a VHS or you listen to like a tape or something like that. So that was cool. But I think, I don't know how that would have worked. Somebody would have had to have a record player, and they kind of tied a plot point with one of the kids in this movie having just so happenly being a DJ, to where he would have had a record player, like being able to like run a record. It was a little bit too convenient, but I'm not going to complain. That's a little complaint. And there you go. From there, it is the classic Evil Dead movie. You have the people trying to understand how to defeat these demons, dealing with the fact that their mom has now like, oh man, my mom's a demon now, but she's my mom. Is there some way we can get her back? What do we do? How can we stop this? And of course, as we know, the only way to kill the demons is by, separating them and tearing them apart into nothingness. And that's where things like chainsaws and shotguns and other things come into play. And they kind of tease in the beginning of this movie some things leading up to the end, which is kind of exciting. Because they know, if you have an Evil Dead movie, you're going to have a chainsaw. You got to have the chainsaw. And following typical Evil Dead things, there's going to be a lot of blood. There's going to be a lot of gore, a lot of bile and vomit and liquids coming out of people's bodies that are gross because they are possessed. The gore, the blood, all of that, I like it. It's cool. I like it. It's cool. It's cool. What's not cool about movies like this now, like even with the Evil Dead 2013 and this one, I feel like they just make dumb decisions. Characters in these movies make dumb decisions just to make dumb decisions. They find a hole, okay? They find a hole where the book is, and the sun goes in the hole. Why would you do that? Huh? Like, I don't know. I'm not that adventurous. And there's too much stuff that happens in that scene where I'd be like, maybe I don't want this. Maybe I should not read this book that has teeth. Oh, this book just cut me. I'm bleeding on the book, and the way the book opened is because it inhaled my blood. Nah, I'm okay. I'm not reading that book. I'm not playing the records. Horror movies can be done without having somebody just come in, do their thing, and make bad choices just to make bad choices. One decision that was not dumb in this movie was the camera work. The camera work in the movie was sick. I think obviously it took a lot of inspiration from Sam Raimi's directing skills, camera work style. I kind of like the jagged cuts to quick frames of things zooming in, being close on somebody's face. It makes it intense. And then you also still have those wide scope shots that kind of linger. There's a couple shots in this that kind of keep the movie going, and it builds that tension. And then, of course, the famous, like I talked earlier in the video, the panning shot, that zooming shot, that's almost like a drone shot coming into a person or just going through the woods. That shot to me feels so like nostalgic and classic of the Evil Dead franchise. It was very cool. I loved that. So lastly, this movie obviously sets up further films. They set up on a cliffhanger that shows, yes, there can be further movies exploring on this specific universe. I would love to see a follow-up to Army of Darkness. I am right. I think I'm ready. I think we're all ready to see a follow-up to that world and see what kind of version of what would an Evil Dead today do for the Army of Darkness? What would be so different? Let me know what you think on things like that. And then let me know also what you thought about the Evil Dead movie. I think I would give this movie an 8 out of 10. I really enjoyed it. It was fun. I could see myself purchasing this movie on Blu-ray. I would definitely rewatch this movie as a horror nights. You know, you get to pick the movie. I could choose this movie, but also I could choose any of the Evil Dead movies because I think there's one tried and true thing about Evil Dead movies is they're usually not bad. They're usually pretty fun to watch and is overall a fun experience. And as always, I'm Timbo, and I just talked about that. Peace.